Alex, play the intro. I did this last month, right after the Royal Rumble. I call it the greatest moment in wrestling history, and we've exceeded that tonight.
Yes.
So you and I talk about this. What the video title is? I'm not going to say it. It's above our heads somewhere on YouTube. It is just Sami Zayn and Roman Reigns in Montreal, Elimination Chamber. I had goosebumps watching it. From Roman Reigns standing in the ring to they started Sammy's music and then come out.
Yeah.
And I felt it right here, like, oh no, they're going to do an angle. Sammy's going to be attacked by someone, and it's not going to be a match. And then he walks out, and so there's one heart attack kind of like subsided there.
Mm-hmm.
And then this crowd, it's I think it was the greatest crowd in wrestling history. Not hyperbole. uh it was so loud, like you could hear on the broadcast them keep turning up and down the crowd mics.
Yeah.
Like on the balancing, like sometimes, like I could hear it when they were turning it down because the crowd was getting it too loud for the microphones, to where the broadcast couldn't be heard with how loud they were.
Yeah.
And then we do introductions, the bell rings, and they just stand there and have the greatest. I'm gonna say the title, the greatest wrestling match in history. Just standing there
Mm-hmm.
for like, I don't know, 5 minutes. Just standing there,
just soaking in that crowd noise, man.
soaking it in. I think Roman had a hard time like keeping the character, especially as the crowd was chanting for Sammy. I I find myself relatively speechless as you and I kind of go through this. The match just happened not too long ago. We pretty much got in, hit record. This is where we're at.
Yeah. God, I just a couple things I want to touch on. The crowd first of all, because I've had my opinions on like the Thunderdome era, if you will, of
Mm-hmm.
how like we had some really good matches, but like I think tonight and the main event in particular really sold me on just the power of a hot crowd to really build up a match even more. Like we kind of knew going into this that this was going to be something spectacular, almost regardless of what the result actually was, and I think the crowd actually helped elevate that even more.
It was, yeah. This story was so long in the making, and I can't say enough about this crowd. I had messaged about the crowd on social media how this was like the best crowd ever, and I stand by that. I can't think of another crowd. Maybe the night after Mania,
Mm-hmm.
that Raw after Mania that one time. But even then, that crowd was kind of messing around.
Yeah.
This crowd was into it. And in fact, they were into it from the beginning. They played along with everything. I clocked it in the Women's Elimination Chamber, which was the opening match. And we're not going to go through the whole show,
Right.
but they were buying into what the women were doing.
Yeah.
With the face actions, with Carmella like being like this great heel in that match, and buying into her as the heel, not doing like go away heat or anything like that, but
Mm-hmm.
generally as she's the bad guy, we have to boo her. Liv Morgan's the good girl, the good guy, good girl, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Using some bad descriptors here. We have to cheer her. And it sustained throughout the night. We had a little bit of a trepidation during, Lashley and Lesnar.
Yeah.
But beyond that, and that was just like the way that was booked. It wasn't even the crowd, and the crowd was still into it, right? When that happened, the crowd was loud. they were booing, they were chanting bullshit, right? And it just sustained throughout the night. Like I don't know how anyone like 50,000 people tomorrow are going to wake up with like strep throat or something, you know? Um, they've ruined themselves tonight. Yeah. And then let's talk about the match itself. So I think we've kind of waxed poetic on the crowd a little bit.
Yeah.
So the match starts with 5 minutes of staring down. Of course, that's very crucial to all wrestling matches, just to stare down.
That's ring psychology for you. No.
Yeah. No, I mean, but it was like body. It was like a battle of body language. But then they started, and the thing I was worried about, and I was worried about it when Sammy like delayed his entrance,
Mm-hmm.
is that they weren't going to let Sammy wrestle. And I remember this. I think it was maybe Kevin Owens versus The Rock a couple years ago, where I knew what the outcome was going to be with The Rock winning it because he had to take the title for Cena or something like that. But you wanted to see the match take place anyway because it was something unique.
Yeah.
And Kevin Owens like ducked out of the ring for a couple minutes, but then he got back in. They did a couple things, and then it was over.
Mm-hmm.
And it was pretty disappointing from that standpoint. Like if this is going to be our main event, I wanted it. And my biggest fear was Sami Zayn, because his character was what it was the last couple of years, really. From his conspiracy theory character to that weird alliance he had with Shinsuke Nakamura and who was it? Cesaro, maybe?
Yeah.
I think so. Like that weird alliance where he was like there, but he wasn't wrestling. He had like that cowardly gimmick where he couldn't wrestle.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my biggest fear coming into that. And luckily, WWE didn't mess with a good thing, and they let him wrestle a Sami Zayn match, something we really haven't seen in quite some time, maybe except at War Games. Beyond that, we haven't seen the Sami Zayn.
Like you said, that the first the first few minutes of just letting kind of like the hype of the match kind of settle in, and like even just the fact that like you literally start with a couple side headlocks that get big. Again, big crowd reactions for side headlocks. Like, okay, this is the.
I mean, I'm a mark for side headlocks. I don't know about you.
Yeah, but it's just and yeah, there was just so much to be said about like just the storytelling that obviously there was a big story to be told going into the match, but to have that story continue to play out in the match, just like you almost get the sense of drama behind every kick, every punch, every wrestling maneuver.
Did you clock that Roman Reigns had pretty much aimed his voice out because he was screaming at Sami Zayn the whole match? He's screaming at Sami Zayn's wife. I loved you. I wanted to protect you. It's all your husband's fault.
I'm
some great gaslighting there.
I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I did not know that Sami Zayn had a wife until it was brought up in the course of the match. I was like, oh, okay.
She did an interview for WWE.com this morning, maybe.
Oh, okay.
But
yeah, no. So that was honestly surprised me. But it was like, yeah, to your point, like, yeah, like it's funny because I had talked with people about like the different kind of matches that this would probably remind us of, with like the atmosphere and all that. This reminded us of. To some degree, this reminded us of RVD versus Cena from One Night Stand 2006. To some extent, it reminded us of CM Punk versus John Cena, Money in the Bank 2011. I think you mentioned The Rock versus I think CM Punk was like that was the whole story there. But like, hell, the bit where he's going in talking to Sammy's wife honestly reminded me just vaguely of The Rock versus Mankind from Rumble '99, just in terms of like bringing the actual family, and which is something Roman alluded to leading up to it as well. Like I think this was a callback to the final moments of the Rumble itself, the Rumble show itself, where he was like, "I'm gonna embarrass you in front of your family." It's like that was his goal.
You destroyed my family, I'm going to destroy you in front of
Yes.
yours.
So.
And then he carried through, right? He kept yelling at Sammy, especially as the match came on, like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, you destroyed my family. Especially with like with Jay coming out. And by that point, when he was screaming at Jay, is when you can really hear that Roman Reigns ain't gonna be on TV tomorrow night because he can't talk. Like I
Right.
don't. That's why he wasn't at the press conference that they just had.
Right.
He can't talk. He was absolutely like straining to scream at Jay. Um,
Hey.
you know, so we had Jimmy and Jay come in. I'm not really surprised Solo didn't get involved, but it was probably for the best. Would have been one too many moving parts because I think if Solo had to get involved, then you would have to have KO get involved before the finish, and then it's like, well, why didn't KO help Sammy win? Which I did see some criticism about that, like why didn't KO help Sammy win? And I'm like, well, KO doesn't really owe Sammy anything
Right.
because Sammy
They didn't.
absolutely destroyed him during War
Right.
Games, and Sammy actively helped Roman retain the title against KO on multiple occasions.
Exactly. He didn't hit him in the back with the chair at the Royal Rumble, but that does not mean that they suddenly became friends, like great
Which is good
pals.
because
You know.
I don't want them to be friends.
Yeah.
Like they had that breakup, for so long, and it was finally, and it was usually Kevin Owens doing the breaking up, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so it was finally like Sammy rejecting KO,
Yeah.
which I think is very poetic from that long term storytelling standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but having KO come out after to repay the favor of not beating up Sammy when he's down after the match, that was fine.
Yeah.
Jay still being conflicted and refusing to attack Sammy, but like stopping the chair shots on Sammy for a bit
Mm-hmm.
is a great storytelling beat. I kind of wish he came out with Jimmy and we would have had some of that interplay.
Yeah.
It's like they very deliberately didn't want him to confront Jimmy, just confront Roman.
Mm-hmm.
So that was like, I like a small little in a 10-star match, right? I'm giving this 10 stars. Put it on the screen.
I can agree with that. You know, it's funny because
On a 5-star rating scale.
an extra five just because it was in the Canadian equivalent of the Tokyo Dome.
Right, it's the exchange rates.
Yes.
It's definitely the exchange rates.
You know, it's funny because, and I was telling you this before we got on here. Just like I understand, like they work, they work something out to make it happen. But all things considered, it was a genuine surprise to me to see Jimmy Uso come out. Just because I was like, especially because they even played it up, like they played into it on the SmackDown before, like,
right.
oh, you need to stay
Stay home and
home
watch
and
TV.
what, like, and like, those are in the know or whatever, like, oh yeah, okay, so Jimmy's not gonna be there for the reasons that he wouldn't be there, but no, he was there. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Actually, Solo didn't
Yeah.
show up, so maybe they passed it on the Solo. Like, okay, we're gonna ban your younger
It's
brother
like you're the one who has to
instead.
stay home for sure.
You're the one who has to stay home. That's what Canada
Oh,
said.
that would be that. But yeah, no,
So
yeah.
I think as we kind of wrap this up, I think the ending is going to be unpopular people because I wanted Sammy to win.
Oh, I did too.
And I don't care that Cody is waiting. Right? They can have a triple threat,
Mm-hmm.
right? If they really want Roman and Cody there, and I still think they can.
They could have a triple threat.
Um,
They can have they could find some storyline between, like, within the next 2 to 3 weeks and be like, you know what? The way we do this, we have two
they could do
nights.
Sammy versus
We can
Roman, and then
do,
the winner versus Cody.
it's still a
Yeah,
2 night affair. But yeah, no, I hear you.
right.
Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think they still can insert Sammy if they want to, and I think they should. I don't think they will, and I understand that has gotten a lot of people down, like kind of like what's next. But I didn't want to look at it that way tonight.
Right.
What we got was a great storyline. Spanning from April of last year, April
Mm-hmm.
to February 18th, right? Was when this match happened. April, I don't know, 11th, like the week after WrestleMania
Right.
last year.
Right.
Full 10 months of an ongoing story that they just kept, poking at and poking at and poking at, and it was just naturally getting organic. And this storyline survived a creative regime change,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And luckily, the new regime was smart enough to let it keep going, to let it expand. And the storyline has some great moments, like feeling Usi, right? That got chance in like sporting stadiums.
Mm-hmm.
Usi, Usi. right?
Yeah.
This subplot with Jey Uso accepting Sammy, just an amazing story beat that we kind of hit on last month too, and even into tonight. We got a 10-month story, and it was paid off in, I would say, objectively one of the best wrestling matches that WWE has ever produced.
Yeah.
I don't think that's hyperbole. I don't think the title of our video is hyperbole, um, even if it is a little clickbaity, right? Uh, that's an insider thing. Um, but you know, and so I appreciate that, and I acknowledge my tribal chief, of course, right?
Hmm.
That's put that down here too, because we need to have when Roman watches this later, because he's a fan of the channel. I acknowledge you, my tribal chief,
Same.
but that was just a
Yeah.
masterpiece.
It was so good. And and now we're firmly on the road to WrestleMania. So it's just like, oh
Now we're
crap.
firmly on the road to WrestleMania.
It's like, where do we go from here? Like, aside,
I don't know.
uh,
I mean, I think we do all know where we go from here, but
yeah,
where we should go and where we will go, two different things. That's
yeah.
okay. Not here for tonight. Instead, enjoy the video. You can check us out at occupyprowrestling.com, and then all of the socials up there at Power, the number 2, the Smarks. I'm Chris from OPW Live. That is Alex. Alex, play us out.